In this week's weekly video fishing forecast, I'll have details of Sunday's fishing flea market in Babylon Village. I will have the latest on the health of the striped bass fishery along with some potential regulations on fluke, sea bass, and scup. We'll have a rundown of the latest upcoming shows, and the Fisherman's Jenni Ackerman has some blackfish tips, all here at thefisherman.com.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners. The Babylon Fisherman's Flea Market is now better than ever in its new location. The American Legion, 22 Grove Place, Babylon. Save the date, Sunday, January 21st, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Over 50 tables with new and used fishing gear. Streaming live on Facebook. Get your fishing questions answered by the Pro Roundtable. Get all the details at fishermanfleamarket.com.
Hey, today's January 18th, 2024, and I want to thank everyone for stopping down at Striper Day. Now let's get to the fishing news. The Hudson River Year of the Young striped bass numbers were just released last week by the New York State DEC. Unfortunately, the results came back as poor. So a little about the survey. The Year of the Young Index value provides an estimate of annual recruitment for striped bass in the Hudson River. This index is generated through a beach seine survey at 13 sites along the lower Hudson River, conducted bi-weekly from July through the month of November. In addition to the Hudson River seining efforts, New York State DEC also collects striped bass data in western Long Island Sound, one of their surveys. This survey does catch a predominantly one-year-old fish and is used in striped bass stock assessments. It should also be noted that these spawns are typically affected by mild winter temperatures, which would result in less microscopic food sources for newly hatched stripers to consume. We did have a very mild winter last year. Hopefully, with the way that the winter has been so far this year, there's some optimism for the 2024 survey. You can expect the final striped bass Year of the Young and recruitment numbers tallied through 2023 will be a major part of the management discussion going forward. For our full article, check the link in the video's description below.
The Freeport Fishing and Boating Show is back February 17th and 18th. Get your fishing and boating season started with over 50 exhibitors and seminars from pro anglers. Fun for the whole family. For more information and advanced ticket discounts, visit freeportfishingshow.com to be part of the fun.
Last week, the DEC hosted an MRAC meeting. That's the Marine Resource Advisory Council. This meeting was on the topic of the 2024 regulations for scup, fluke, and sea bass. Fluke will be seeing a 28% reduction from last year's quota. These options are pretty much all over the board, but let's take a look at them. Option 1 would be a May 1st to September 8th season with a 3-fish bag limit and a 19-inch size. Option 2 calls for a May 4th to September 15th season with the 3-fish bag and 19-inch size. Option 3 pulls the season up to May 17th through September 20th with 3 fish and a 19-inch limit. The fourth option is a bit different and looks at a split season option of May 1st through July 24th, closing until August 4th, then running through October 9th with the same 3-fish bag and 19-inch limit. The fifth option would be the longest season from April 1st through October 31st with an increased bag to 4 fish, but also an increased size limit to 19.5 inches. And to round out the options, number 6 would be a June 12th through August 28th season with 3 fish and an 18.5-inch size limit. Moving on to scup, the cut is 10%, so the options aren't as drastic, but they are all over the place with the for hire, private boat, and shorebound regs. One thing I will note that stays the status quo, though, is all 3 options is the 9.5 shorebound size. Sea bass will stay status quo for all regs through the 24 season. Be aware that a survey is being prepared by the DEC for public input on these regulations. Will be distributed through their email list as well as the Fisherman's e-newsletter in the immediate future. Keep an eye on our e-newsletter for updates on that. If you're not a subscriber, hop on that right now. Get the latest updates. Your public input is key here, and I highly suggest that you do take this survey. This Sunday, the 21st, is the Babylon Fishing Flea Market, and the Fisherman will be there doing subscriptions and renewing them as well. The doors open at 9 a.m., and with a subscription, you'll receive a $20 gift card for Shurhold products and a Tsunami iPop popper. So come see me at the booth and join me later in the day for a fishing roundtable with John Padawano of Premium Charters, Joe Paradiso of Nordic Lady Fishing, and Tim Smith will be the host for that one. Yes, Tim Smith is the producer of the Fisherman. Also, the event will feature a roundtable with fishing pros from around the island, including Captain John McMurray, Captain Doug Toback, Captain Bob Schmidt, and Captain Joe Paradiso. Shaping up to be a great event. Hope to see you at it. You know, April 1st is not that far away. Let's check in with the Fisherman's Jenni Ackerman with some blackfish tips.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. This is part 1 of the Mentor Talk. Today I'm here with Ray from Grumpy's. He is my mentor for not only blackfish jigging, for like a ton of saltwater fishing tactics that I do, like pitching up current, just blackfishing, and today he's going to be talking about jigging for blackfish. Ray has caught some absolute slobs on the jig.
Yes.
Before the jig or even blackfishing was publicly known. Ray is an absolute pro with jig fishing. And basically, Ray, what is your go-to setup? You have it here.
So I start with the rod. So I love something 7 foot, something rated up to about 2 ounces. This particular setup is a 7 foot. I teamed it up with a 3,000 size reel. 20-pound braid. Braid is probably the most important thing when it comes to jigging, because if you have too heavy of a braid, it's going to be tough to get that lighter jig to the bottom. So something up to 2 ounces, 7 foot, 3,000 series reel. Some guys will do 4,000 series, and I do 20-pound braid.
Okay, so how heavy of a jig do you go? What's like your limit on ounces for a jig?
There's tons of different styles of jigs out there right now. A lot of the jigs that you'll see in tackle shops are going to be in that 1 ounce to 2 ounce range. I don't go anything bigger than 2 ounces when it comes to jigs. I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. I always start off with a 1 ounce jig, depending on the conditions. If it starts scoping out, then I'll go to something a little bit heavier, but I always start with a 1 ounce jig.
So another little debate within the blackfishing world is the type of bait that you choose. There's white leggers, there's green crabs, there's hermits, there's spiders, there's even some shrimp.
Yep.
Secret shrimp, if you don't know.
Yep.
So what, with like a crab for like a jig, like with a rig you can do a ton of different, you can do 2 halves or whatever. How do you bait a jig?
So I have like a mental checklist in my head when I go blackfishing. I always start with the whole crab. I'm always looking for that big fish when you first get set up. So I'll start with a whole crab, crush it up, step on it a little bit, see what happens. And the biggest thing with blackfish that I can recommend to everyone is watch around you too. Don't be afraid to watch other people that are on the boat, because they might be doing something different and getting a bite. So I always start with a whole crab, I step on it, see what happens. If it starts, you don't feel anything, no scratches, no bites, then I go to a half a crab. Step on it. Stepping on it is probably the most important thing. It just mushes it up a little bit, especially this time of the year in January. The cod get a little bit lethargic. They want a softer bait. So whole crab, then to a half a crab.
Mugging is also another excellent thing to do. You can't beat gracing someone's presence on the other side of the boat and just giving them a nice hi, hello, and then setting the hook on the fish that they've been finessing for the past couple minutes.
There's nothing better than stealing someone's other fish. Someone's fish. It's very satisfying.
Gentlemen's blackfishing, that's for sure.
Yes.
So now we're gonna go over how to feel a bite with a jig.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like misinformation on the web about blackfishing. About you gotta set the hook before you feel the bite. That's not true. The thing is, when you drop a jig down to the bottom, right out of the gate, you're probably going to feel some scratches. Typically, that's for gulls, but that's okay because they're kind of setting it up for the blackfish. Then you'll feel a thump. That's what you want. You don't want to set up on the scratches. There's days where blackfish will be a little bit, like I said, finicky, and you'll feel them scratch it. But most of the time, those little pecks are for gulls in the beginning, and then you'll get the thump. That is what you want to set up on, the thump. And when you set up on a blackfish, I would say you have probably like a 6 to a 10 foot buffer zone. I call it a buffer zone. When you set up on a blackfish and you keep your rod tip high, you never want to lower it. Keep it up high, reel to the fish. That is your best bet to land a big fish, not lower your rod tip. I use full drag. A lot of guys don't agree with that. I use full drag. I want to turn that fish really, really quick. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to landing these bigger fish on light tackle. Because I tell you what, 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you fishing a 7-foot spinning rod for blackfish. It just wasn't, we just didn't do that. So it was heavy conventional rods, 60-pound mono, 60-pound leader, and yeah, I mean, this is just completely different. And I personally was the one that laughed about fishing for blackfish with jigs. I when I seen people on the boat, I'm like, what the heck? It's changed the way we blackfish. It's more fun. You get more bites. It's just the truth. You get more bites. Landing the bigger fish, I probably go with a conventional rod, but it's just way more fun targeting blackfish with a spinning rod.
All this talk of blackfish has me so excited. I wish the weather wasn't so crummy so we can actually go out blackfishing.
Yeah.
But stay tuned for not next week's open boat, the week after, for the part 2 of the Mentor Blackfishing series, where we talk about rig fishing.
Here are the upcoming events for January. As mentioned earlier, on Sunday the 21st, join me at the Fisherman Flea Market at the American Legion in Babylon Village, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'll be part of the Fishing Roundtable with John Padovano and Joe Paradiso. Then the New York Boat Show is back again, starting on January 24th, going through Sunday the 28th. Also on the 28th is the Glen Cove Fisherman's Flea Market, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more details on these events, visit the link in the top right or visit thefisherman.com/events. Let's move on to a couple of brief winter report updates. Unfortunately, no cod trips this week due to the wind once again. I did hear some herring were being picked at Magnolia and within Cold Spring Harbor. Yellow perch were on the spawn, according to a few sources, and the lakes on the island that held them were seeing good action. Skim ice could make it tough this week on some of the lakes that get it. Don't forget about those tidal creeks, though. White perch will still be chewing down on those small, soft plastic finesse lures, night crawlers, and some grass shrimp if you can get your hands on them. Carmen's, Connectquot, and all of the other South Shore tidal creeks are certainly worth a go. If you do have a notable catch, you can email me at mbroderick@thefisherman.com with the photo and any details, and I will try and get it into the weekly video fishing forecast or the magazine. With our fly and freshwater report, we have Paul McCain from River Bay Outfitters.
Hey, Matt, it was great seeing you at the over at the Surfcasters Journals show that this past week. It was good to see a lot of people and, talking. And even though I'm not a big surf fisherman, I do like to fish the surf with my fly rod. But it was good to get out, and my wife and I had enjoyed it and meeting everybody and saying hello. Well, I woke up this morning, my car was encased in ice. I had a tough time even opening up the doors. It doesn't look good for fishing, and this week it was supposed to be, it'll struggle to get into 32. So it's going to be a little cold. I might be guiding on Sunday. We'll have ice on the guides for sure. But hey, that's what they're fishing. But the good news is the forecast is that it's going to warm up. Now, do not go on the ponds. The ponds have ice on them. You can't fish them that way. And the ice is not thick enough to walk on. At least not yet. And probably won't be. Because like I said, come Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, we're going to get up into the 40s. So I would not go out on the ice myself. But wait till the weather changes, where you have that slight bump in temperature. That sometimes spurs the trout into feeding. Just a couple of degrees of water temperature, and they'll start feeding again. And look at midges. That's one of my favorite patterns to fish. I use a zebra midge. I also use dry flies like a Griffith's gnat. But I'm going to get out there and fish as soon as I can. Right now, I'm going to tie flies. So until next week, tie lines, everybody. At this time of year, man, it is brutally cold out. So why not tie some flies? And this week I'm tying up a fly that is so effective in the wintertime. It is just an absolutely crazy good fly, easy to tie. You can tie up a dozen of these very quick. And it's a very simple fly. This is my variation of an unweighted zebra midge. But as you can see, it's tiny. But this is exactly what we use at this time of year. Simple. There's only 3 ingredients besides the hook. Hook, thread, some ostrich herl, and I'm using a gold rib, but you could use silver rib too. So let's go ahead and tie this up. This is an unweighted zebra midge. I would fish it like a dropper. This is in this time of year, midges are extremely important, and I like tying this. And this is a little bit different than the normal pattern, but it really does catch fish. I'm going to tie on my thread. I'm using this new jaws from Regal, which really lets me get way down into the back. Then I'm going to come back up. Leaving space in the front. Now I'm going to use some very fine gold tinsel. I'm going to tie it in right like that. I'm going to wrap all the way down. And I'm going to wrap back up. Let it spin out. And I'm going to wrap back down, building up a little bit of a tapered body. And I'm going to wrap back up. And then I'm going to wrap back down again. Each time I go less and less down, just to give it a little bit of a taper. And I spin my bobbin out just to let it flatten out. And I'm going to go back down. And then back up. I think that's good. Now I'm going to take my tinsel and wrap it, spiral wrap it up, giving a little bit of a ribbing, and this is really nice tinsel too. Up. Got away from me for a little bit. And I come up to the thread. And I tie it off. Now for the head, I'm going to use some ostrich herl. This has a lot of little movement in it. Looks really good. And I'm just going to tie it in right like that. And I'm going to just wrap it a few times. And give it a tie it off. Do a little whip finish. Cut my thread. It just really looks good in the water. This time of year, terrific fly to fish. So get out there when we can and give this baby a try. So tie lines, everybody, until next week.
Remember to like our video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and tap on that bell to be notified instantly when we do post a new video on YouTube. Check out this video's description on YouTube for all the related links and index for our specific reports. Please support our correspondents by visiting their websites and their social media pages. Hey, remember this video is available as a podcast on iTunes and Google Podcasts. Search for the Fisherman Magazine podcast and subscribe so you can listen to this broadcast along with our other content. A lot to chew on this week on the regulatory side of things. Don't forget to fill out those surveys when they do come out. We hope to see you at the event this Sunday as well.